Hey everybody, welcome back or welcome to my channel. As I said in my last video, it is Chinese New Year right now in China where I live, which means that people have a lot of time to do things that they don't usually get to do. And one of those things is see movies. This is one of the biggest movie ticket sales times in China throughout the whole year. And since I'm living here, I decided to go to the movies with my boyfriend last night, and we saw a movie called The Wandering Earth, or 浪游地球. This movie is not yet out in the US right now, but it's been out in China for a few days, and it's already grossed $74 million. $74 million is good for a film in its first 3 days. And this film is set to premiere in the US in the next 3 days, so I wanted to give a short review of the film and talk about my thoughts on the film as a whole. So a short summary of the film basically goes like this. The sun is dying, and the United Earth government, which is like all of the countries on Earth uniting to find a solution to like save the Earth, they get together and they decide that they should put the Earth in a new orbit. The movie really has four main characters, one being the father, another being the son of the father, another being a adopted daughter, and then there's a grandfather. So we follow three generations of this family and we see how they're dealing with their kind of like family drama in a post-apocalyptic world. So this film is notable for a number of reasons. For one, it's a sci-fi film produced for a Chinese audience in China with a 90% Chinese cast, which you don't often see here because in China it can be quite hard to make a sci-fi film. There is a governing body that oversees film production in China called the State Administration of Radio, Film, and Television, and they basically make sure that films adhere to Chinese regulations and laws within the country. And any movie that is imported into China or viewed in China in a theater has to pass the regulations. And one of the regulations has pretty strict guidelines with concern to fantasy, science fiction, or like ghost films. So it can often be really hard to produce an interesting science fiction film in China. Another reason why this film is notable is because it is a film adaptation of author Liu Cixin's book. Liu Cixin is most famous for his book, The Three-Body Problem. If you haven't read it, I really recommend it. I thought it was an interesting book, but it involved a little too much science and not enough fiction for me. But overall, I thought it was really good. And if you're into sci-fi, you should definitely consider looking up this book. So this movie, The Wandering Earth, was a film adaptation of one of his short stories that he had written in the past. It's been said that his book, The Three-Body Problem, will be adapted into a film at some point, but I heard a funny rumor that the reason why they haven't adapted The Three-Body Problem yet is because apparently his story is really hard to develop into a movie because it has a lot of physics in it, so it's not actiony enough for a film. But the film will be coming out soon within the next few years, according to industry rumors. So the overall themes of the film are quite Chinese. And when I say quite Chinese, I mean that they really uphold the values of the government. One theme of the film, which is kind of the theme of all media in China, is telling Chinese stories well. Telling Chinese stories well is something that China's leader, Xi Jinping, has made clear that he wants done, and he wants done throughout all forms of media. So this movie was really focused on telling Chinese stories in an interesting and propagandistic way that is palatable to audiences across the world. And I will say that they did a really good job at that. One of the themes of the movie that kind of is encapsulated in Chinese culture was family. So this family throughout the movie is going through all of this family drama where they're also facing the end of the world. But somehow family still prevails and they're able to try to figure out a solution together as one. Another theme of the movie is a pro-China narrative, and we can kind of see that theme with this clip right here.
И все-таки ты не забывай, это русские 100 лет назад изобрели космическую станцию. Все космические станции в мире создали мы.
Which isn't a bad thing. I don't think it's bad to be pro-China, but I do think that it's really funny that they're like, hey, at the end of the day, the world is going to be saved by shit made in China. Which isn't necessarily untrue. Everything is made here.
She all made it in China. She all made it in China. She all made it in China.
I mean, you know, it's entirely possible, but it's funny that they're trying to push that narrative through a film. So one of the other important themes of the movie is that the future is peaceful and involves no corruption. There's this really funny scene in the movie where the grandfather of the family is trying to bribe the grandson out of jail, and he tries to give this police officer some sort of bribe offering, and the police officer refuses and puts him in jail. And it's really funny because China's top leadership has been on an anti-corruption and anti-bribery campaign for the past few years, which has landed a lot of top officials in jail. So it's really great to see that in a post-apocalyptic world, all of these efforts were not for naught and people are not about the bribes. China has accomplished its goal and that goal continues on in a post-apocalyptic world. Okay. I don't want to make this video too long, but I do want to talk about my overall impression of the film. I really thought that it was a good film. I'm really happy to see Chinese cinemas producing their own science fiction films. And I'm happy to see a Chinese film going abroad feature a 90% Chinese cast. I love sci-fi and I like to see sci-fi of all genres, and I think that this is going to add to the sci-fi movie canon. Another impression of the movie is that the camera shots were way too jumpy. My impression was that they were trying to say, look, we did a sci-fi film, we have lots of budget and shit, let's just put a bunch of shots in our movie. Like there would be 1 second where they were on one shot and then another second where they were on another shot, and then you'd be confused about kind of like the spatial reality of this world. It was really confusing and super jumpy and it kind of gave me a headache. But I guess they were trying to show that they had all this technology and they had a big budget film, and this film is sci-fi. Big budget, awesome, love us. I don't know. I thought it was a little bit much, but you can kind of tell me what your thoughts are after you see the movie. Another impression that I had is that I love the background music that they use. There was this background music that they were using like during the scenes of Doom, and I thought it was awesome. I'd like to know where they got that music from. I thought it was beautiful and really well done and really well pieced together when they decided to use it. My last impression, which is like my overall criticism with Chinese films, is that there were a few racist things. The way that they were portraying the foreigners in the film were a little bit of this narrative that you'll see if you live in China and you see like film and television here. It's like this goofy foreigner that kind of doesn't really know what's going on. And then there was this one character who was supposed to be half Chinese, and he spent most of the film, even though like the world was kind of indie, he spent most of the film trying to prove that he was Chinese enough just because he was half Chinese, which I was just like, dude, come on, that's ridiculous. He has done this video in the past of him doing different accents of people speaking Chinese in China, like foreigners speaking Chinese in China, and some of the interpretations of the accent that he did I found quite racist, particularly the black person's accent.
I've never seen a black dude before, you know what I'm saying, man? Walking up to me, they all like, you know.
And it's cool that he got a major role in this film, but I hope that he kind of considers the way that he portrays certain people when he does films like this. And then there was this one scene where there was a Japanese person or a Japanese team, and they were depicted kind of participating in like a ritual suicide, which I kind of thought was like a racist depiction of Japanese people in film, and I thought was a little bit unfair. And I understand that other films around the world do this as well, but I'd really like to see China take a different direction. I think it's cool that they're gaining so much ground in the worldwide film industry, and it would be kind of cool to see them be like, you know what, we're gonna be different, we're gonna portray different groups of people in an equitable and interesting way that's both comedic but doesn't exploit these stereotypes about the people as a whole. So that was my overall impression of the Wandering Earth project. I definitely think that you should see it. See the film and let me know what you think. It comes out in US theaters in the next few days. It's all subtitled, so you don't have to worry if you don't speak Chinese. It is definitely worth the watch. That's all I have today for Lana Lives in China. I hope that you hit the subscribe button or you hit the like button. If you didn't like the video, please like it anyway because it definitely can't hurt you, and subscribe to my channel because I just do all of this cool shit all day long and I want to share more of this stuff with you guys. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.